Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday this week with Cynthia Kracmer. Hey, Cynthia, welcome back.
Thank you, Vasco. Hello, welcome back.
So Tuesday is Team Tuesday here on the podcast, and we'll talk about teams in a second, but it's also the Tuesday for inspiration. We want to hear what was the book that most inspired you in your career as a Scrum Master, Cynthia?
I was actually reflecting on what would be one specific book, and probably it's a collection of different books. But I think that one single book that really inspired me in that direction was the Design Sprint, actually. And I think the reason why it inspired me, it was that I always thought that in creativity there is no structure. But I think that what this book taught me in terms of the creativity process is that it can actually be rhythmed and structured in a way to even be more creative, but also creative in the right places, but also find the times where when we are creative with other people, where do we need to align as a team? And then also when we've made a decision, how do we move forward together? So I find that that connection between creativity and structure really, really interesting. And I think that's what Scrum for me is. It's still being collaborative, creative with people, but in a structured way so that we can still deliver an outcome, a result.
Absolutely. And of course, when we do teamwork, which we'll be talking about a lot more in a second, when we do teamwork, structure becomes quite important, right? To set expectations and to organize collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
So let's dive into that teamwork again. Cynthia, so Tuesday is about discovering what teams do that creates problems. So tell us a story of a team and walk us through how maybe small things that you started seeing eventually over time grew to become big problems for that team.
It's a good question. So the story I have in mind is so I'm part currently of an Agile Center of Excellence, where we are like an internal consulting center of excellence that's helping different functions in the life science industry. And we are supposed to, so our core business is to deploy Agile coaches to support teams to achieve better their objectives. And for me, what was really interesting is that it's a big group of very experienced Agile coaches. But we actually had a hard time aligning and organizing ourselves because everybody was very convinced of the way of doing is better because of this experience. And then we probably weren't enough open-minded to sort of hear what the others had to say. And so as part of these Agile coaches, we brought a Scrum Master, but a very junior Scrum Master, and for whom it was the first time. And our expectations of Scrum Mastering were obviously very high. But strangely, nobody really thought about giving that feedback to the junior person or that mentoring support that this person needed in this first Scrum Master experience. And so I did end up thinking, oh, somebody else is going to do it, or somebody else is supposed to do it. And it actually never happened until the Scrum Master actually failed and just left the company. It was replaced by somebody else. And I felt that in the spirit of Agile, which is we can always learn and we can always improve, I felt it was a bit of a missed opportunity here to miss the opportunity to help somebody junior becoming a Scrum Master to become a better Scrum Master, and also helping who could potentially also help us to organize.
So one of the things that I recognize from the story that you're sharing is that very often the people who are always helping others have a hard time accepting being helped.
That
And
is
when
spot
you then
on.
added the fact that maybe the Scrum Master's juniority had a part to play there, I was thinking that many of the people that I've worked with that have a lot of experience and can definitely help other teams, if they were faced with the idea of somebody else helping them, especially a junior person with very little experience, they would probably be not very receptive to that help. Is that
Yes,
what you experienced?
this is exactly what I've experienced, and it's spot on. And I'm still wondering if humility shouldn't be one key value of Agile, because I believe that there are always new tools, new methods, new techniques, new ways of doing. And I believe also for me in life, there are several times where we can listen to the same advice and take it differently. And so I think it's really important as a senior or more mature agile expert to be able also to sort of be helped when we are stuck, or just accept a recommendation and advice if there isn't a retrospective being done where this can be shared. Um, I think there can be also like one-to-one conversations that can also help to make this happen.
And another thing that you said, which I would like to expand on a bit, which is this idea that we give the example to others, right? Like, so when we are Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, and we don't accept the help or the facilitation even sometimes from other people in the room, then we are giving the example to teams and to each other that you don't need to accept facilitation.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and I was just wondering, like, how can we keep ourselves accountable, right? Because we are not only supposed to be good at this and therefore understand what's happening, but also we are supposed to be giving the example, right? Like, hey, maybe I disagree with what you're doing, but let's give it a try. Let's give it an honest try, because it might actually work, right?
Exactly. I completely agree, and it resonates a lot with me what you're saying, because I think this is also when preaching or inspiring people through agile principles, we need to demonstrate them in our actions, and people are looking for they are looking at it. And I think typically not accepting a suggestion of somebody else because we don't think it's going to work is already not applying agile and not giving it a chance. And I think experimentation is at the core of our work. And for this reason, we need to be open-minded, try out and give it a chance.
Exactly. Stay open-minded, but also I think beyond open-mindedness, it's also the like, for example, it might be that the person in the room, the junior Scrum Master, is actually using a technique we already know works, but we don't like how it's being used, right? And I think it's staying open-minded is definitely one, and staying humble, which you already mentioned, but also accepting that we are learning all the time. Right.
Exactly.
We've had more than 400 guests here on the podcast, and there's not been one single guest I haven't learned something from.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of people say the same things, but they say it from a different perspective, with different context, and with different kind of nuances that help me, right? They grow my toolbox every time I hear a different answer from what I expect.
I completely agree. And I think it's also any single tool or template or technique we might be using, I believe can resonate with certain people, but they might not resonate with some others. And I think it's also here understanding that we're different. We have different preferences. Some people might be more visual. Some people might be more sort of theoretical, and they want to sort of understand where from research this has been proved, etc. But I think it's being open-minded and accepting different ways of doing is just being adapted to a wider audience, and the fact that humanity is just diverse.
And through that diversity, we all win.
Exactly.
The person who's doing the work wins, and we who are benefiting from it also win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great story. Thank you for sharing, Cynthia.
Thank you, Vasco.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.